Hey guys, what's up? It's Alex or Nuznus here, and today's video is going to be about the secrets to become a better PVMer and defeat harder bosses on RuneScape 3. Now this video is going to be split up into two different sections, so make sure you listen to this. The first section will be about things you can get to help you become a better PVMer, while the second section will be about things that you can learn to become a better PVMer. Both are very important, but the first section is stuff that I have covered most of it before, so I'll just be going over it briefly and linking some more in-depth videos that I've made on each aspect. And then the second section is going to be about the stuff that you can learn, which will be more of the tricks and secrets that I've used to get better at PVM, and things that I'll go more in depth on. As always, the timestamps will be in the description, and so will the mentioned videos, and if you want to progress your account and get helpful videos like this, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss another video, and like the video if this helped you out. So first, we're going to start off with the section of things you can get to become a better PVMer. That includes gear, skills, and upgrades, and stuff like that. So first, we're going to be starting with gear. Now, anyone that tells you that gear isn't important to becoming better at PVM is just lying. That doesn't mean that you need great gear to PVM with, but to act like it's not at all important is just wrong. Now there's tons of videos and feats of high-level PVMers doing insane things like no food kills, high enraged telos with no food, high enraged telos and things like that with very low tier and cheap gear, but the fact of the matter is the average player, or 99% of players, wouldn't be able to do that, and it's a really cool feat and achievement, and it takes a very skillful and experienced PVMer to get those kills. So let me bring you this example. I'm sure almost all of you know of the famous chef Gordon Ramsay. Now if you gave someone that, cooks a little bit but not too much, if you give them little to no kitchen tools, a horribly dull knife, and like a campfire, and told them to make a great meal, they probably would have a pretty tough time doing that. Now Gordon Ramsay, on the other hand, could probably easily make you an amazing meal with very little tools. Another example is something like photography. You don't need an expensive camera to get into photography, but it sure as heck really helps. That's kind of how it is with gear. So while having expensive gear isn't technically needed, it does help you a lot, and while you don't need 10 billion worth of gear to PVM, better gear is gonna really help you, even if it's just moderately priced. I'll leave some upgrade guides from people like Wazware that are very good in the description, as well as my DPS increase guides for different upgrades and stuff like that. So after gear, we have abilities. Now abilities are very important because they change the way you can deal damage or protect yourself from damage. Now some of the most important abilities are things like Death Swiftness and Sunshine for damage rotations, defensives like Devotion, basics like Corruption Shot and Blast, Greater Concentrated Blast, and many more. I'll leave my ability guide in the description if you want a more in-depth look at all the best abilities to unlock, but I don't want this video to be 3 hours long with stuff I've already covered before, but I need to mention these. So next we have keybinds. Now this is something you can easily get. You can just change the keybinds on your action bar to whatever you want. Now please keep in mind that keybinds are a very personal thing, and there is not one wrong or right way to do them. That's why I have never made a keybind guide. I don't think you should just go and copy someone's keybinds. It's very personal, as some of you might be right-handed, some of you might be left-handed, some of you might lay your hands on your keyboard a different way, some of you might have a smaller keyboard or a larger keyboard, some of you may only have a few fingers. It's just a very personal thing, and I'll quickly go over my keybinds and talk about the inspiration of what I did and the importance of what you should have keybinded and what inspires mine. So basically for keybinds, the most important thing about them is that you use keybinds that are comfortable to you. And even if you're on Revolution, you still need keybinds because you may use them to swap weapons, use defensives, drink potions, eat food, all very important things that are going to really help you with PVM, regardless of if you're using manual or Revolution. Now the best tip that I can give you is to use keys that are close together for similar things, and also use keybinds that are easy to remember. I have a few of these. For instance, my prayers are the F keys, so F1 for magic, F2 for ranged, F3 for melee, F4 for soul split. These are all very close together on my keyboard, and I can easily prayer flick with my left hand. As for other keybinds like my defensives, a lot of them have a certain meaning. For instance, B has always been my barricade key because, well, it starts with the letter B, and that's easy to remember for barricade. My shield keybind is the 1 key, and my resonance keybind is the 2 key. Now, why are these your keybinds for that? Those are kind of weird, aren't they? Well, the reason that I made these my keybinds was when I was learning Telos for the first time many years ago, and the hold still attack kept killing me. This made it much easier for me to just press the 1 and 2 key when the attack came, and I got so used to it since then that I have basically kept it like that, and I have zero problems resonancing attacks today. Is the 1-2 combo for Resonance Shield the most optimal setup for resonance? Absolutely not. But does it work for me, and do I remember it, and did I get used to it? Yes, and I have no plans to change it. The biggest takeaway that I can give you is to keybind as much as you can and have keys that you'll remember what they are and that they're close together, and then practice them at a boss you're comfortable with to get used to them. This will really help you on your PVM journey. So finally, for the things you can get section, we have the core skills. Now, skills are very important to PVM, and I'm going to link another video that I made that covers these in depth and what they unlock, but again, I'm going to quickly go over them here for you as well. We have Herbler, which can unlock overloads, and adrenaline potions, which are a key aspect to PVM. We have summoning for familiars, which can help you carry more food or do more damage. We have invention, which lets you perk your weapons and armor to deal more damage or reduce the damage taken. We have archaeology, which can unlock relics to boost your damage, life points, or give you special things like adrenaline gain and stuff like that. We have prayer, which can unlock ancient curses, turmoils, and soul split, which are a key factor in doing mid to high level PVM. And again, if you want a more in-depth view, all the links will be in the description to everything I've mentioned during this part. So now we're going to move on to the section that has a lot of new stuff that I've never covered on this channel before, and this is stuff that you can learn to help you with PVM. This isn't stuff you can buy or achieve. This is stuff that you actually need to spend time learning, and this part is going to be a lot of talking and mostly background clips, so make sure you listen so you understand all of these tips, because I can't really put them all in a super visual format. I have to basically explain it to you. So first we're going to talk about defensives, but not about unlocking them, but about using them. Now, they're extremely important to improvising during PVM. While they are used at bosses in certain scenarios, like resonancing the hold still at Telos or using devotion on the Archglazor's cannon, these are common and known ways to use these defensives to deal with a boss mechanic. But actually learning how each defensive works, when it cools down, and how you can use it to your advantage at all bosses is very important. For instance, let's say you run out of food at a boss and you have around 1 minute to go and kill the boss. Knowing how to cycle your resonance with preparation, knowing how to barricade while using soul split to gain health, cycling devotion and debilitate at the right times to take the least possible damage can really be the difference in getting a kill or dying. Now, learning this takes time and practice, and it has to be learned. So I recommend going into your defensive ability book and just reading what each of the defensives do, and then after that, go into a boss that you're familiar with and try to get a kill while using as little food as possible, while using as many defensives as you can to stay alive. Now, this isn't practical, of course, and make sure you go into practice mode, but just messing with these defensives and learning how and where they're best used is going to help you a ton, and I mean a ton, in higher level PVM. So next in the things you can learn, we have ability rotations. Now, this is something that I get asked to make videos on all the time, and I haven't done one yet. Why haven't I made one? Well, frankly, my ability rotations are not perfect. They do get the job done, and I've done much high level PVM. I've basically killed every boss that I've wanted to, but they're by no means the best. I mess up. I make mistakes just like you. Now, the key here is to learn a rotation that works for you. There are some great guides about rotations by Wasware and others that I recommend you go check out for an in-depth look, but learning a basic rotation for the style that you use most is going to help you a ton. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, but knowing your best thresholds, your most important basics, and your key ultimates will be a great help. For instance, this is just an example of what I'll do at most bosses with ranged. I'll use the Death Swiftness ultimate ability, and then I'll Adrenaline Pot. Then I'll use a basic like Needle Strike and Limitless Sigil. I'll then use Rapid Fire, Snapshot, and then use the Saren Godbow spec. This is how how I start most, if not all, of my boss kills. Learning a rotation for your style can be difficult because people have different things unlocked. For instance, you might not have Limitless like I do. You may not have the same type of adrenaline potion that I do. So your rotation will differ. Now, the best advice that I can give you is to use one of the guides that I mentioned, but also look up exactly which each of your ability does. And this will help a ton for learning which basics and thresholds are more powerful than others and which you should prioritize and others that you should barely ever use. For instance, I don't want to be spamming the binding shot whenever it's available as a basic, but I do want to be using Needle Strike a lot or Greater Concentrated Blast. So now this is probably the most important part of this entire guide, and it's about your mindset and actually learning bosses. So first, we're going to start with the main trick, and that is something that seems simple, actually learning the boss. Not going in, not trying to deal as much damage as possible, not eating through and brute forcing all the mechanics, actually learning the core, the basic mechanics of the boss, why the boss does each attack, what you can do to avoid each attack. This takes time and it takes a lot of attempts. Now, the best example I can give you is when I first started doing the Archglacior. You want to learn the basics. So for instance, you want to learn that he does magic auto attacks. Then he will go into a special attack, which is signified by the creeping ice. You then need to learn which each attack does to you, why it does it, how you can avoid it when it comes. This seems very simple, I know, it really seems simple, but you'd be surprised how many people go into a boss and just expect to DPS through it and eat through all the attacks and don't actually know or try to learn how to deal with the mechanics of the boss. This is how I was when I first started Telos. I would go in, I would basically get the hold still, I would let it hit me, I didn't know how to res it, and I would still be able to get the kill because it would just hit me and I'd eat up and freedom afterwards, but I wouldn't res it. It was the same with different things like the Gillinor attack where he does the uppercut to you. That attack hits you like 3k and you don't need to dodge it at low enrage. It hits you 3k, you have to eat more, and I didn't know how to dodge it, so I just let it hit me. I still got the kills, but I wasn't learning how to do the boss. Now after this is another extremely important secret that I'll give you, and so after you know the basics of the boss, then and only then can you learn these small tricks that will push you over the top and be the difference between it being an average or decent PVMer and it being great at that specific boss. For instance, I'll use the Archglacior again as an example to keep it consistent. Once I finally learned the basics of the Archglacior and how everything worked, then I was comfortable enough to get kills without dying very often, but I could have stopped there, but then I decided to see how I could fine-tune my kills and do the small little things for that boss to make it faster and more efficient. Well, for instance, I learned that I had a ton of time to do Death Swiftness during the core attack. So from then on out, I started Death Swiftnessing during that attack, and it's become what I do all the way up to 2000% in Rage. I learned that just by doing the boss, not any guide, not the wiki, nothing like that. I learned it by doing the boss and figuring out what worked. I learned, hey, I can actually fit an ability in here when I'm about to surge through the pillars of ice. Normally, I would have just waited and surged through and been safe, but I figured out a way to do it to fit in more damage. I also learned you can reflect and debilitate the Archglacior's cannon if you don't have Devotion up. Now, how did I learn this? Well, I learned it by dying and failing the kill because I didn't have my devotion ready, which brings me perfectly into my last point, and that is don't be afraid to fail and push yourself. So many people are afraid of failure when it comes to PVM and afraid of dying. I get it, I am too. I talked about it in my group bosses video where I revealed how my anxiety and fear of dying and messing up my team's kills and inconveniencing them was keeping me personally from doing more group bosses, and it's the same for all RuneScape PVM. So many people are afraid to leave their comfort zone and try out new bosses, and the truth is if you go to Solok once, you're going to die. You're going to die and you're going to fail miserably. Almost everybody is. Even my friends that were really great PVMers the first time they went somewhere like Solok, they got absolutely destroyed and died countless times. But if they stopped there and assumed they were just bad and they wouldn't be able to kill Solok, they would have never gotten the Solok title. They would have never made billions of GP off Solok. Think about the release date bosses. Everyone is doing the boss for the first time and failing. It's just how it works. Very few people succeed and get super efficient kills or even kills at all on their first few attempts at a boss. But being afraid to never try is going to be the biggest thing holding you back, and the biggest thing that I see holding people back from becoming great PVMers, and pushing yourself is one of the most important aspects to becoming better at PVM. It is okay to fail. The last thing I'll say about this is it just takes time. Now, I have over 1,000 Archglacier kills. I have over 1,000 Raksha kills. If you go back and you look at my first 100 Raksha kills versus my last 100 Raksha kills, the difference is absolutely night and day. The practice and fine-tuning is going to be a huge aspect in going from okay to great at a boss, and it doesn't happen overnight. Just like anything, you have to work at it. That doesn't mean you have to play 10 hours a day and grind a boss either. You can go do some Raksha for an hour each day. Kill it whenever you get on to play, and then maybe the 20th hour, you will be a lot better than you were on your first hour. I can guarantee you that. So that is the guide. We really started off with things that you could buy and kind of the core things that, you know, everybody can eventually save up for. Things that don't take any skill. It's basically stuff that you unlock or earn. And then we got into the things on how to learn, basically, which is very important, knowing how to learn and how to learn these small tricks and all the little secrets that I've learned PVMing that are kind of make up a formula that I use to learn a new boss. And again, this video, the second part of it was more of explaining things rather than actually showing things on screen, because it was really tough to do that with the, you know, the secrets and tips I gave you. So yeah, in the description will be all the guides I mentioned, because I didn't want to just throw them in here and make this an hour-long video. Nobody wants that. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope it helps you out. If you take anything, take that last section on not being afraid, learning the basics, then pushing yourself to fine-tune your skills. It will really help you a ton, I promise you. And let me know what boss you're having trouble with, and maybe I can give you some tips below. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for supporting the channel. As always, I'll see you in the next video.